Okay, hello students. So today we'll be discussing the first chapter, Introduction to Object-Oriented Programming Concepts. And these are the following topics to be covered: evolution of programming languages, programming paradigms, principles of object-oriented programming, all principles working together, and finally we'll have differentiate between principle orient procedure oriented programming and object oriented programming. Okay, so yeah, before we discuss the different generations of programming languages, we need to understand why do we need programs at all. So before the digital era, we had mechanical machines and they didn't need program to run. But with the evolution of technology, digital technology came up and we started replacing our mechanical machines with digital ones. So basically any digital machine, it will have an electronic chip, and the electronic chip, you can call it hardware. Okay, so this hardware cannot work by itself. It needs instructions to be able to work, and this set of instructions is known as a program. So for a more simplistic understanding, we can observe the instructions needed to make a dish. In this example, the example given in your book, will be considering tomato pasta. We must understand human beings use instructions all the time to perform any given task. Okay, so as you can see, this is the recipe for tomato pasta. Okay, now the first point is, the first instruction is the instruction which will be going on in our heads is that we need to boil water first, right? We need to boil water in a large pan, then we'll add pasta to it, then we need to simmer for 10 minutes and then drain the pasta. Then we need to take another pan and fry the cumin seeds in the olive oil for a few minutes. Then we need to add onions and fry gently. Then we need to stir in the tomatoes and the hummus. Leave to simmer for 5 minutes. Add the boiled pasta, mix well and serve. So you can see that we have got a well-defined activities in each line of instruction. We are very clear regarding what we have to do. So similarly, the machine, the electronic chip or the hardware needs instructions, but the instruction cannot be in normal English language. The machine cannot understand English language. If I ask the machine to do a certain task in English, obviously it will not be able to understand. So we need a method, a language to communicate with the hardware, and that language is machine language or binary language or the language of zeros and ones. That's it. Machine can understand only zeros and ones and nothing else. So this is known as machine language. Now coming to the different levels or generations of programming languages, we'll be going through all the generations of programming languages which have evolved since the first machine language. Okay, so basically during the start of our digital era, we used to program our machines, our digital machines, using punched cards. Okay, punched cards are nothing but instructions in the form of zeros and ones. And this language can be directly understood by the computer. There is no need to translate the code and it will run straight away, because of which the code will run very fast and efficient, and no translator is needed because it's the native, we can say that it's the native language for the machine. Zeros and ones is the native language for machines. So that is why there is no translator needed. This is in contrast to the high level languages which we'll be looking at in the future, where we need a translator. Okay, but for now, for machine language, you need to remember that we don't need translators because the language itself is in the form which the computer can understand directly. Okay, so what are the drawbacks or the disadvantages of this first generation or machine language? The drawbacks are, the first drawback is that a program written in machine language for one system cannot be used in other systems, in other hardwares. That is the biggest problem. Okay, and that is why we need to rewrite the same program for different machine. This is the biggest drawback. The second drawback is that the code is difficult to edit and update. Obviously, you can imagine that if we have a sequence of zeros and ones extending to 3 pages, it will be difficult to edit and update as well. And also, if there is any error or any problem in the code, it will be difficult to identify the error. Okay, so this is why we needed something better than the first generation or the machine language. So the next level of evolution in the programming languages was the second generation. Okay, this is also a low level language, but it is relatively higher than machine language. So as you can imagine that if we write zeros and ones whole day, obviously we'll be prone to mistakes, right? So that is why the a certain instruction which was in the form of zeros and ones was replaced by a certain symbol like add, sub. As you can see on your screen, we have add, sub, mul, mov, which stands for move. Okay, so these are symbols which represents a certain machine level code, a certain sequence of zeros and ones. Okay, so you can see that there is a slight improvement. We upgraded from zeros and ones to symbols, so now things are relatively easier. Okay, so as you can see in the diagram below, okay, there is an example given of an assembly code. You have LDA, that is load A. So if you take the first line example, okay, the instruction is that load A, right? So this particular line will be translated into the machine language or the object code. Object code basically means the machine language, okay? So this line will be translated to machine code by a program or software which is called assembler, okay? So assembler is associated with second generation or assembly language, okay? Okay, so coming to the third generation, okay, third generation is known as high level language because it is in the form of English language, okay. It's easier, it's easier to read, and it's okay. So what is the difference between high level language and assembly language? Earlier I said that assembly language is easier than machine language, and now I'm saying that high level language is easier than third uh, the machine language. So what is the difference? Well, the difference is that the third generation, the this high level language is the high level language is very much close to how you would give instructions in normal English language. If you see a code in written in high level language, you will be able to make out what you'll have a general idea of what the code is trying to do. Okay, so that is why it is easier than machine language. And apart from that, a single line of high level language can do or can produce many lines of machine code, unlike the previous generation, that is the assembly language, one line means one instruction, that's it. But one line of high level language is equivalent to many lines of machine code, okay. So obviously this will save a lot of time and it will make things easier for the programmer. And apart from that, the other advantage of high level language is that machine language is not platform independent, okay. So again, each system needs to have its own machine code. So if you write a program in machine in assembly language, it will be for one particular system, and if you want to simulate the same program or the same code in another machine, it will not work, you have to rewrite it. But that's not the case with high level language. In high level language, you write once and you can run it anywhere. That is the biggest advantage, okay. Okay, so in the previous example, in the second generation, we saw that assembler was needed, right? Here you can see the mouse pointer. Assembler was needed to translate from assembly to machine language, okay. In case of high level language, we need a compiler or an interpreter which will convert our high level language to machine level language, okay. So examples of high level languages are, okay, the list is not exhaustive, okay, it is just a few examples: basic, COBOL, Pascal, C++, Java, right? So these are the few examples for high level languages. Okay, so we have already seen these points, the advantages, so you can go through it by yourself. Now coming to the fourth generation language. Fourth generation languages, they're basically designed to support drag and drop of elements and generate code. Okay, so what do we mean by this? Okay, so basically it means that instead of writing the whole code for ourselves, there are certain elements of our program which can be done automatically. Okay, automatically, and it is closer to natural language that we speak. Okay, it is closer. Okay, so like suppose in your book the example is given for SQL. Okay, so this SQL, you can see the instruction like select name, city, address, pin. Okay, from certain table. Okay, so you can see this is a particular instruction. Okay, in SQL stands for structured query language. So you can see the instructions in this language is very much close to how you'd speak in English and ask for certain information from someone. Okay, so this is known as fourth generation language. And finally we have the fifth generation. Okay, this fifth generation is so far in the previous generations we had to define specific instructions. Okay, there's suppose we have certain problem, we must have certain instructions, clear instructions in fact to solve the problem. That's step number 1, do this; step number 2, do this; step number 3, do this, and so on. Okay, but in fifth generation it is completely something new. Okay, so instead of writing an algorithm for solving the problem, okay, we expect that we will have a program and we will just give the program a certain problem which should be able to find out the code for itself. Okay, so this is known as constraint based programming. We give certain constraints, we give the problem, and that software should be able to produce lines of codes which will solve our problem. Okay, so this is mainly used in artificial intelligence. Okay, so artificial intelligence means that machines must be able to perform like humans. They must be able to think like humans. Okay, so if I ask a machine that this is my problem, and if the machine is able to understand the problem and produce a solution for it by itself, that is an example of artificial intelligence. Okay, and the languages used for this fifth generation are Smalltalk, Prolog, okay, etc. Okay, students, so that's it. You can read your book, okay, on this topic at least 2 or 3 times, then you will have a better grasp. So let's stop it here for today, and in the next video I'll be discussing the next topic. Okay, so this was evolution of programming languages. Okay, in the next video I'll be discussing programming paradigms. Okay, that programming paradigms, and then I'll slightly touch upon object oriented programming. Okay, so you can have a go through, read your book. Okay, I'll be explaining these topics. Okay, thank you.